Every graduate student is faced with a literature review at one time or another, as a reader of literature reviews or a writer of a literature review, and often both roles. As someone who needs to read research, knowing more about a quality literature review will give you a better understanding of the research you read. You'll be better prepared to critically analyze the work you read and determine how it fits into the larger body of work in the field. You will discover clues that will help you track down valuable resources to learn more about things that interest you and what researchers already know and still have left to learn. You'll need to write literature reviews as well. Many courses at the college and university require one or more papers, and those papers are often literature reviews. Master's students may prepare a literature review for their thesis, and doctoral students certainly will for their dissertations. Literature reviews are used in every discipline. But what's so important about literature reviews? On page 1, Chris Hart stresses the importance of the literature review for research. He says, "Without it, you will not acquire an understanding of your topic, of what has already been done on it, how it has been researched, and what the key issues are." Judith Gerard calls the literature review fundamental to understanding the accumulated knowledge about the topic being reviewed. Diana Ridley tells those who would write a literature review that your research is a small piece in a complicated jigsaw puzzle. It does not stand alone. It is dependent on what others have done before, and you will contribute to an ongoing story or debate. Your reader, therefore, needs to know about the whole jigsaw puzzle, and not simply the shade and shape of your particular piece. In a literature review, you are contextualizing your work. You are describing the bigger picture that provides the background and creates the space or gap for your research. And finally, Harris Cooper warns the researcher that, without this step, researchers cannot expect to construct an integrated, comprehensive picture of the world. They cannot achieve the progress that comes from building on the efforts of others. Also, investigators working in isolation are doomed to repeat the mistakes made by their predecessors. The term literature review has dual meaning. One is as a product. Your professors may tell you to write a literature review and describe what they would like you to produce. Topic, length, number of citations, even the style manual you should use. All of these describe the final product. But the other implied meaning of literature review is that of a process, the process a researcher uses to get to the product. Let's take a look at a few definitions. Some emphasize the product portion of the dual meaning, and others emphasize the process portion. Vicki Plano-Clark and John Cresswell focus on the literature review as a product in this definition. They describe a literature review as a written summary of journal articles, books, and other documents that describes and critiques the past and present state of information about a topic, organizes the literature into subtopics, and documents a need for a study. In the 6th edition of the APA Style Manual, the focus is on product as well. They describe a literature review as a critical evaluation of previously published material. In the APA Publication Manual, they go on to explain the literature review as having a tutorial function because the authors of a literature review identify and clarify a problem, summarize research on the topic, identify relationships and gaps in the literature, as well as outline possible future directions for researchers. Reports of original research include a literature review, but one also finds standalone literature reviews on a variety of topics. In describing a literature review such as this, Cooper points out the variety of purposes that can be served. He says it can have numerous different focuses, goals, perspectives, coverage strategies, organizations, and audiences. Frankel and Wallen write about a literature review as a systematic process of finding and analyzing documents related to your research problem. Their definition is the systematic identification, location, and analysis of documents containing information related to a research problem. Judith Gerard writes about the process too. In her definition, she talks about reading, analyzing, summarizing, and synthesizing. She goes on to point out that a reviewer should focus on the hypotheses of the studies reviewed, the methods other researchers have used, the results from previous research, the strengths and weaknesses of studies, and the interpretations and conclusions previous researchers have made. Ridley is very explicit about both product and process. In answering the question, "What is a literature review?" she writes, "It is helpful to break it down into two parts. First, the finished product of the literature review, which appears in the final draft of the dissertation or thesis, and second, the process that is involved in conducting a review of the literature." She goes on to describe both product and process in more detail. In her view, the product of the literature review is the place where you connect source texts and your research, engage in a written dialogue with other researchers, demonstrate that you understand the broader field, identify theories and research that have influenced your work, including the topic you chose and the methods you use. In sum, this part of the thesis or dissertation provides the rationale for your work. She describes the process of a literature review as an ongoing activity which begins when you pick up the first book or article related to your research and continues until the day you finish the final draft. She elaborates. At first, your review helps you form your research questions. Identify the theories that are relevant to your work and the research related to yours. This process allows you to explore research methods you might adopt. Near the end of your project, the literature review can help with both analysis and interpretation of your own data. Ridley concludes, the literature review, therefore, serves as the driving force and jumping off point for your own research investigation.